And just to say, what an honour it has been just to come and attend this conference. I think already this morning we've got so much out of the discussions and rethinking of the way we do things. So thank you very much. So hello everyone, my name is Tejinder Deeks and I'm the Deputy Head Teacher at the Langley Heritage Primary, where I have been for nearly 15 years. We're very fortunate to work alongside our sister primary school and a secondary school, which is less than a mile away as well. And today I'd like to take you all on a journey how we transformed professional development in our school and how Iris Connect played a role in that change. So I'm going to take you back to circa 2018. I, at the time, was an assistant head teacher, and I returned to school proudly carrying a crisp blue box. It was the latest in teaching technology at that time for us. We completed training and practiced using these iPads to record ourselves in a mock lesson. It was groundbreaking, given that our laptops hardly turned on. So this was a complete game changer for us. The deputy and I, at that time, we marched back into school, really excited at the prospect of how we were going to revolutionise teaching and learning. We placed this luscious, gorgeous blue box in the office. We mentioned it to a few teachers who would pull faces of shock and horror at us and would quickly run away, never to be seen again. So, oops, sorry, I'll leave that on there. And so there it sat in an office, then another office, and then into a classroom cupboard. It travelled really, really well. It gathered up miles. I think I could have gone to the Caribbean with it. It just sat there, though, sadly, and it gathered dust. And every term at the governor's meeting, the familiar questions would come. Have you used Iris? How is it going? What impact is it having? And I'd nod along and mumble a response about, yes, we're trialling it, while inwardly thinking, we're not really, please don't ask me to prove this. But they knew, they always did. And then one day, it wasn't a particularly special day. I looked at that strong, beautiful bag full of technological promise and thought, right, today is the day. We have governors next week and I have to tell them we're using it properly. I grabbed the bag and I said, let's do this. And honestly, we have not looked back since. In the beginning, our approach to professional development was very much a one-size-fits-all, like a tour bus. Everyone boarded the same route, made the same stops, and followed the same commentary. But coaching needed to be more like a GPS. It needed to be personalised. Some teachers knew their way around the area. They were very familiar, while others were very new and did not know the way around. And then, of course, there were the unexpected roadworks, those moments in teaching, which I'm sure we've all had, where you can never quite predict what's going to happen. In 2021, we introduced coaching using walkthroughs. We set up triads and focused staff development around our academy aims, particularly scaffolding and modelling. We trained our coaches, we created booklets to upload conversations, and we met twice a term with our coachees. We found the impact of this whole school approach really helped to improve consistency across the classroom and the school, and the quality of our modelling and scaffolding vastly improved. The children, more importantly, were also engaged in their learning. We finally cracked it, or so we thought. When we gathered staff feedback and triangulated this with learning walks, the people who were already comfortable on the tour bus, those who knew the route, were heading off in the same direction too. And although standards had risen across the school, these teachers were not being developed in the best way for themselves. So once again, we needed a rethink. Our next step was an oracy focus, and we let staff choose their walkthrough within a theme identified from learning walks, reviews, and discussions with teachers. We offered guidance and suggestions, but crucially, we stepped away from that one-size-fits-all mindset. This is the first time, really, personalised and trialled it, personalising CPD in this way. It worked much better, and teachers were all making progress in their own areas that they themselves had identified. We finally got it. Or so we thought. And then the practical challenges hit us. Scheduling became a nightmare because we had to cover the cover who was covering the cover. We had to keep track of who was doing what, where had we seen best practice. It was becoming really hard to retain and even harder to build on. We managed through sheer hard work and determination. On occasion, we would pick up on classroom behaviour that coaches were adamant they were not aware of, or they just had not noticed. They weren't surprised, they were genuinely unaware. How could we coach someone that did not or could not see what we saw? Meanwhile, our sister schools were singing the praises of Iris Connect. They shared how much their staff were using it and they loved it. When I suggested it again to our teachers as a supportive tool, they would strongly tell me, and I'll paraphrase what they told me, to go away and leave them alone. The idea of watching themselves absolutely horrified themselves. And we were saying at lunch today, it's that ick factor. I do not want to hear or see myself. So there Iris sat back on the shelf for just a little bit longer, I promise. As coaching became more embedded in our ethos and walkthroughs became our Bible, and with yet another governors meeting looming, we finally had a brave knight step forward. And a teacher who said, okay, I'll record myself, just please stop bugging me, Tej. And so they did. We watched the lesson. They watched the lesson. Other teachers watched that lesson. Even the TAs watched that lesson. And the question hit us loud and clear. Why had we not done this before? We could see great practice. We could pause it, rewind it, rewatch it. We could show that one moment of excellent modelling, of questioning, of behaviour management again and again and again. This was not just a video. It was a model. It was a multiplier. Eureka! I liken this to an experience I had recently. I took my two children, aged 8 and 10, to the opticians recently, and I thought I'd better show good modelling. And while I'm here, I might as well get my eyes tested too. Imagine going most of your life thinking the world looks a certain way. You squint through lessons, through meetings, through life, adjusting without realising it. Street signs are a bit blurry. You assume everyone sees them straight away. Staring at the screen while writing those policies and reports gives you a headache, but that is just normal. Everyone happens to do that, right? You struggle to read the bus numbers until they're right in front of you. Menus in a dim restaurant, a guessing game. You assume it's normal that everyone's eyes take a moment to adjust. And then, like I wish I bought my glasses today, but thankfully I've got very big writing so I can read it. Someone hands you a pair of glasses. You hesitate at first. It feels strange, exposing, vulnerable. You put them on and suddenly you see individual leaves on trees. You see the colours bright and vivid. You see writing on a board from the back of the classroom. You've gone from HD to 4K. You realise your world wasn't as clear as you thought. It was just the only world that you knew. And the shock is real. Not because you were doing something wrong, but because you didn't know what you didn't know. That's what Iris Connect can feel like. Before Iris, some teachers were navigating blurry practice. They were doing their best, unaware of the small things that made a really big difference. When we watched videos together, we saw the details. We saw the rushed tones, the overlooked hands, the little chattering in the background. And on one occasion, when a teacher turned her back, a child fell on the floor. Also, that big thing of noticing that children had no thinking time when it came to think, pair, share. Things that I'd never noticed before because they hadn't seen them. And this slide, I'll give you a moment to read it. shows that teachers moved from being skeptical about Iris being intrusive and of little value to helping them to develop to understanding it as a tool of discovery to develop their pedagogy to ensure children were engaged, inspired, and connected. Okay, so this is Namira. She is in her second year as an ECT, and here she talks about an immediate change coaching and Iris has had on her practice.
Coaching has allowed me to analyse my lessons effectively, looking at the positives and the negatives, and also allow me to implement ideas quickly into my lessons that can make a positive difference to my classroom.
And as you can see from these quotes, teachers now feel Iris is a supportive tool and helping them with their teaching and learning practice. This is Ronan. He is one of our more experienced teachers, and he won't forgive me for saying this, but a little bit of a technophobe. And here he talks about how coaching has helped him.
I find the coaching aspects of Iris to be the most helpful. I always prefer talking with a colleague to go through certain aspects, and it's only when you're in those conversations that you can really work on and pick out some of the key features. In my coaching, I was able to talk it through what's gone well and actually what I can develop further, which when you're on your own is sometimes harder to do.
We went from coaching being an absolute cover nightmare to being able to watch videos in our own time. It was a game changer being able to leave comments directly on videos. It meant that we didn't have to scroll through endless files or search lots of notebooks. By the way, thank you for the notebooks at the end. I do love a notebook. Our notes were there on the screen, bookmarked at precisely the seconds and the points that we needed them to be on. And so we could refer back to them during our coaching sessions, but also the teachers could use them to reflect on their own practice at the time that suited them before we had the discussions. And then came the integration of walkthroughs and AI, which again revolutionized how we did things. Our eureka moments were coming in thick and fast now. And as you can see from the quote, teachers are able to use insights to focus their teaching. We adapted our coaching cycles more responsively, and we were able to tailor support more accurately. Importantly, teachers felt they were partners in the process. With the continuation of walkthroughs being our focal discussion points, that shared language that we've heard so much about, it wasn't just my opinion, that we had proven pedagogy and theory to base our discussion on, that shared language. Using research, theory, and video evidence as our compass to move forward. I'll introduce you to Alina now. She's very new to our school and is in her first year of ECT. This is her first experience of ever using Iris, and she talks about the impact Iris and AI had on her pedagogy. And one of the walkthroughs it suggested to her, she went on and did some reading around it using the AI insights.
I found it quite overwhelming at the beginning, but to be very honest, when I looked at my feedback, it was quite structured. For example, if our walkthrough is using effective questioning, AI gave me the whole list of questions I asked, and they said I did well. However, they gave me the next step, which was to ask follow-up questions, which was quite interesting. And when I started applying that in my pedagogical approach, I could see the difference that children were making. For example, they were more engaged and they were showing their understanding throughout the topic. So it was quite nice to have that feedback from AI and not from only one person, but the generic answer.
And again, Ronan shares one of his own reflections from watching back his video.
So Iris has been really useful in prompting on some of the points that you need to work on. So when I was able to review some of the videos, it allowed me to see that actually I spend quite a bit of time doing teacher talk, and maybe that's something that I can reduce so that the children have more opportunities and time to carry out their tasks.
I was finally able to sit in a governance meeting and talk about how Iris is a tool we used. It was not just a box that was sat in an office or in a cupboard somewhere gathering dust. This slide I shared with governors show the impact Iris and coaching had on our self-defined core walkthroughs. We noticed that teachers' confidence increased. They were able to tailor their own CPD with things that they had seen themselves, and importantly, things that they could not have noticed until Iris. One powerful example of this across the trust is shared from our ITCO, Linda Blackmore. One notable success involved a teacher whose delivery was perceived as harsh, cold, and clipped, leading to strained relationships with children and mounting concerns voiced by parents. It was difficult for the teacher to receive such criticism, and initially could not see that this was her approach in the classroom. Through our engagement with Iris, this teacher was able to witness firsthand the reactions of her oral responses and instructional delivery on the children in her class. Together, we embarked on a targeted half-term journey through an observe and coach model, with a focus on softening her approach to embody the notion of being warm but strict. The process began with recording her lessons, providing a mirror to her teaching style. When we delved into coaching sessions that centered around emotional connections and the significance of responsive communications. Through deliberate practice, the teacher explored techniques to enhance her rapport with the children, fostering a more inclusive and supportive classroom environment. The result was nothing short of remarkable. By reflecting on her practice through Iris, the teacher was not only able to adapt her delivery, but also embraced a newfound enthusiasm for teaching. As relationships flourished, both children and parents reported a shift in classroom dynamics. The structural support provided by our coaching sessions and the reflective nature of Iris ultimately led to observable improvements in pupil engagement and academic progress. This, for us, is the ripple effect. When coaching is embedded, it doesn't just change teachers. It changes classrooms, it changes relationships, it changes outcomes.
Iris has really helped me in the classroom when I focused specifically on the walkthrough show me boards. It gave me feedback immediately, which I implemented into my classroom, and it also helped me adapt that to meet the needs of all the children inside my classroom.
So Namira noticed during a lesson that sometimes not all of her children were able to answer the questions on the show me boards, whereas some children took seconds and then they were disrupting others. After watching her lesson on Iris and then talking and reflecting this with her coach, she adapted her approach by assigning tailored tasks to each row of children during her input. This reduced disruption and increased engagement, especially amongst the quieter pupils, who are now more confident sharing answers and a sense of success at being able to access the same learning as their peers. After her reflection, she had some time to practice and embed her new method. She recorded another lesson with Iris with the focus on assessment for learning. Her lesson was shared during Inset last month, and the staff reported that seeing this in action helped them to reflect on their own practice, on how better to support and adapt the work to their diverse learners in their own classrooms, and also thinking about their questioning and styles to make sure that all of their learners were challenged and engaged. This was by far one of the most impactful insets that we've had, where teachers were able to go out and see another teacher in practice and one of their own as well. So once again, Iris had enabled us to have quality conversations and reflect on a larger scale. We could share best practice more easily than ever before. Next, we have Namira discussing how AI has helped her develop her practice.
Iris has really helped me in the classroom when I focused specifically on the walkthrough show me boards. It gave me feedback immediately, which I implemented into my classroom, and it also helped me adapt that to meet the needs of all the children inside my classroom.
So one of the challenges I found with Iris was actually with the recordings. In 2 of the videos that we've tried to do of the lessons, they actually didn't record, which meant that there was very little from the videos to go from in terms to analyse. Having said that, even within a small amount of time, it was able to pick up a lot of little points that were done within the lesson that I was able to think about and use and work on for future lessons.
The challenges of using Iris is to be able to control my nerves before I get a camera watching me, and also to watch my lesson back and make sure that I'm not too hard on myself, because we all make mistakes.
So, as you've just heard, it wasn't as smooth sailing as I'm making it out to be. Behind every success, there were dozens of logistical headaches and complications. We had numerous issues setting up equipment, mostly a user issue there, I have to say. We had to build staff confidence to use Iris independently. And of course, we still have some real reluctance and those technophobes. I would prefer a real person just to come in and watch me. I still get that. Sometimes the microphones wouldn't work, or only one iPad recorded. An iPad would die mid-lesson as it wasn't charged. 2 people had planned to use it at the same time, and neither of them had booked. If we didn't actively remind staff they needed to record their Iris, some would just conveniently forget. We knew in order for this to work, we would have to create a variety of systems. We needed champions, colleagues who would model, support, and gently nudge others. We created a booking system for coaching and Iris. We had to train staff how to add bookings to the school calendar. Staff needed to ensure Iris was returned, charged, and turned off to conserve battery life. We embedded coaching cycles into our CPD timetables every half term. We've built coaching weeks, and with a clear deadline for when staff have to use Iris to record their lessons. And of course, that also means me going around saying, have you recorded your lesson? You haven't booked in Iris. We've given time during weekly CPD sessions to allow coaching teams to meet so they aren't an added on. It's not an additional meeting that has to take place outside of school hours. We've embedded coaching and the use of Iris into our personal objectives and AIP, giving SLT a clear focus. We are not just introducing a tool, we are embedding a new culture of reflective practice. We plan sessions in and around packed daily schedules to ensure one-to-one training is delivered on an ongoing basis to help staff feel more comfortable setting up Iris and understand how to use the insights. This was not a seamless rollout by any means. It was real, messy human work, which has taken us years to get to where we are now. And we still have unforeseen challenges. But we have stuck with it because we know that the why is too important to be undone by the how.
So I use Iris to help me in my practice to make sure that when I'm using my walkthroughs, I'm using them effectively and they're implemented consistently across all lessons.
Winston Churchill once said that success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. We are sure we will continue to have many eureka moments. And if there is one thing we have learned is that we will have never have cracked it. Our most important lesson is CPD doesn't move teachers. Teachers move themselves. The biggest impact they can have on themselves is themselves. Tom Sherrington wrote, essentially, teachers are only going to improve if they themselves are seeking to do so, on terms that they understand, accept, and commit to, with a sense of purpose that they largely drive themselves. And above is a diagram from his blog, Teach Ahead. So what's our role then? We are not behind the wheel of every classroom journey, no matter how much we try to be. But we are the ones who set the direction and direct traffic when it gets chaotic through shared vision, school priorities, and a culture of curiosity, not compliance. We help staff understand why the journey matters. We are the ones who adjust the route or clear the path for them. Whether it's sorting timetables, building systems, or making time into packed schedules, we do the invisible work that make growth possible. We are the ones, oh no, one more. When staff feel unsure or overwhelmed, we listen first, then act. Sometimes that's troubleshooting tech. Other times it's just reminding them that they are not alone and we are there with them. We are the ones who offer perspective when the path seems unclear. We coach, not command, we guide. Because every teacher is behind the wheel of their own bus, driving towards their next destination at their pace, in their way. Ultimately, our job is not to move teachers, but it's to make sure that there's nothing in their path that stops them from moving themselves. And that's exactly how it should be. I'll end with a quote from a staff member who was one of our more reluctant users. To any teacher who feels hesitant about recording their lessons, take that first step. You might not only rediscover your existing strengths, but also uncover new ones. Be brave, stay curious, and nurture your ambition. Thank you for listening.